You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
I'm Tim Phillips, Americans for Prosperity. We're on the Ending Earmarks Express tour, going after the 50 most outrageous pork barrel earmarks in the country. We're here in Ketchikan, Alaska. It's an island with about 7,000 people right here that you can see. And they want to build a bridge with $223 million of your tax dollars across a very short waterway to an uninhabited island where there's an airport. Now, there's ferry service that we're on right now. The ferry only takes about 1 minute and 22 seconds. We timed it earlier. It's a short, easy ferry ride, and they want to spend $223 million of our tax money to build a bridge that'll be almost as long as the Golden Gate Bridge, taller than the Brooklyn Bridge, to connect this uninhabited island to that island in the middle that has about 50 people on it, to this island here at Ketchikan.
I'm a substitute for another guy. I look pretty tall, but my heels are high. The simple things you see are all complicated. I look bloody young, but I'm just backdated. Yeah. Substitute your lies for fact. I see right through your plastic Mac. I look all white, but my dad was black. My looking shooters really made out of sack.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
And you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio. My name is John Butler. I'm filling in for Eric Dudas, and filling in for Brian is Andy Pels. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, John?
I'm great, thank you. Doing very well. Got an exciting show here planned for us today. I have Rob Lucas with Fidelis Fasteners, just back from Taiwan, and has a lot of news about what's going on and what we can expect for 2013. We also have filling in for Mike McNulty will be Jason Sandefur. He'll be talking a little bit about the Bay Bridge bolts that seems to have failed, and we'll learn more about that. Andy, it's first time for you for guest hosting as well as me, so it's going to be an interesting show today. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was just looking. It's episode 63, I believe, for Fully Threaded Radio, but it's episode 1 for you and me, so everybody, I'm sure, will be patient with us.
Let's just hope so. But if we do a really good job, maybe we can get our own gig.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know if I want that, but
well, it's going to be a great show, and I thank you for joining me. I thank everybody for listening in, and we'll be right back.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stelfast. Since 1976, Stelfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stelfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stelfast today through our website at www.stelfast.com and put us to work for you. Stelfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been servicing the fastener community since 1905. An employee-owned company for 33 years, we take great pride in the quality of products we sell, offering outstanding customer service from our very knowledgeable sales team members. Our standard product lines include graded weld screws, resistance weld fasteners, leg levelers, tube inserts, clevis pins, and various other fasteners. We have complete custom manufacturing capabilities in low carbon, medium carbon, and stainless steel materials, and our quality systems are registered to ISO standards. We also have an entire team of sourcing specialists able to locate those hard-to-find items with typically smaller minimums and shorter lead times than that of our competition. We offer same-day shipments from one of our warehouses, strategically located throughout the United States and Canada, enabling us to fulfill all your fastener needs in a very timely manner. To find out more about Buckeye Fasteners, please call us at 800-437-1689 or visit us on the web at buckeyefasteners.com. Buckeye Fasteners, product support from development to implementation.
Looking for package fasteners of all kinds? How about specials or unique parts that no one seems to carry? At Trinity Hardware Headquarters, we believe in parts done right, and our new catalogue is available online at trinityhardwarehq.com, featuring over 30,000 different types of fasteners available in package quantities, product kits, and assortments, including hundreds of hard-to-find parts as well as the most popular inch and metric sizes. Trinity Hardware Headquarters has locations throughout the Midwest and South, and over 400,000 square feet of warehouse space with 18 million pounds of fasteners ready to fill your requirements. Our featured products include number 3 and number 7 head plough bolts, grade 5 and grade 8 carriage bolts, hook bolts, tap bolts, and nuts and washers of all kinds, plus much more. Visit our website at www.trinityhardwarehq.com or give Trinity Hardware Headquarters a call at 888-232-1010. Trinity Hardware Headquarters, for parts done right.
Hi, this is Heidi Voltrauer, reminding you that the All-American Fastener Show is right around the corner. Let's meet in the middle in Kansas City, Missouri, May 8th through the 9th. Details and registration information are available online at allamericanfastenershow.com. See you there.
And we're back with Fully Threaded Radio. We want to thank our sponsors for today. It's Trinity Hardware Headquarters, Fastenal, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Fastener Technology International. And also our main sponsor for Fully Threaded Radio is Stelfast. For service you deserve and people you trust, it's always Stelfast. I'd like to welcome our newest sponsor to today's show. It is Buckeye Fasteners. Most people that are in the fastener industry know all about Buckeye. They operate out of Brook Park, Ohio. That's right, in the Cleveland area. Buckeye is the newest sponsor for the show. Larry Kelly over there is a huge fan of Old Rusty Bolt. I am too. That's some good beer. And we're looking forward to hearing some new Old Rusty spots on the show, thanks to Buckeye. So, Andy, we're stepping in here, and these days are quite interesting with Bay Bridge and the bolts with the hydrogen embrittlement. They're not really sure exactly what had happened with the bolts yet, from what I understand. Have you heard much going on with that?
It's actually pretty, even non-fastener nerds in the Bay Area are talking about it a lot, and probably the most people that have ever heard of hydrogen embrittlement exist now. It's been a pretty big topic, because there's a big celebration that's supposed to happen in September when the bridge opens, and everybody's looking forward to it, and now the main thing they see is, oh, it's going to ruin our party.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, they are talking about what happened, and some of the news actually is of course they're not getting it right, but they're getting pretty close, even using the term hydrogen embrittlement, which reminds me, Eric seems to get a little freaked out when he hears that term. Eric did this in the last episode. I was thinking that maybe he should take the fastener technology, the certified fastener specialist training. Yeah.
There you go. Exactly.
I think maybe if they offered him a discount, then he'd be more comfortable hearing those terms without freaking out about them.
Yeah, when I heard it first, they were talking about the galvanizing process and how hydrogen may have entered into the process there. And I was just reading on the Fastener Industry News, they were stating that when they anchored the bolts into the concrete, they were talking about the water, of course, in the cement mix, and which is, H2O, and that's hydrogen, and that was may have impacted the bolts in some way. Very interesting reading in the Fastener Industry News this month. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see how it all shakes down and see what happens. Is glad that the bolts were made domestically and not overseas, and maybe we can see what happened and learn from what they find as far as the root cause of the problem.
Oh yeah. If nothing else, it's a great learning experience for everybody, even people in the fastener industry. Because until I heard some of the people actually on Fully Threaded Radio, like Carmen, talking about the different ways that hydrogen can get introduced, I didn't even know as much about it. So it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out, or even if they do even figure it out, or if they figure it out, whether they tell us or not. Right now it sounds like they're just looking for a workaround to get that bridge finished off. Yeah.
Well, it's quite expensive to go ahead and replace those bolts. That's not going to be a cheap venture. Somehow I've got a feeling we're all going to be paying for that.
Oh yeah, one way or another.
Yeah. Well, just like the iPhone, we learn from older versions and old mistakes of what happens. So how's your iPhone working these days?
Oh, yes, the iPhone. I'm so excited because I finally realized I can talk about my iPhone on this show, and I have an app that is specifically fastener related. My iPhone's tweeting at me right now.
I heard that.
And this is actually something that I think everybody ought to get. There's a free portion of it that's just inch sizes. It's called iEngineer, just the letter I and the word engineer together. And you can get it from iEngineerapp.com or just in the App Store. But it's a great little tool. You really just have to go and look at their video online. It just shows you can click on grade 5. They've got you can put in a specific size and then tell it you want like grade 7, which is how I found this, because I was searching for some information on somebody had a grade 7 bolt, which yes, it does exist.
I was just going to say I'd never heard of a grade 7.
Yeah, I hadn't either. It's really close to a grade 5, it turns out. But I sell to a company that sells fasteners and other parts specifically for people who are rebuilding old Thunderbirds from the late 50s, I believe, late 60s. They have a really narrow focus. But they had a bolt that they handed me, and I looked at the markings, and I said, well, what the heck do you call this? What is this? It turned out it was a grade 7 that some of the automotive manufacturers had used. But anyway, this app will tell you it's telling me right now, I'm looking at, the major diameter, minor diameter, it's got tensile strength, all that kind of stuff. And all the inch size information that you need is in here. And then if you want the metric, I think you have to pay $1.99. Which of course I'm too cheap to have done yet.
You like the freebies. All right, guys.
Yeah. But I really, really recommend everybody check it out, because it's just a cool little thing where you just dial it in, the size and the head type and the specification, really, and then it gives you all the information that you need.
Nice. That's what your new hosts here at Fully Threaded Radio give you. Good, important information that you can actually use.
There we go. Yeah, and this is specific to fasteners.
That's
I've
right.
got a couple of others that have nothing to do with fasteners, but I'll relax about that for now.
We won't talk about sheep or anything like that, I gotta like that one. See, I just had to go there, didn't I?
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, we have passed our tax day here, and did you get everything taken care of you had to, Andy?
Yes, I did. I actually, I have 2 kids in college that had jobs last summer, and I did their taxes for them because I'm a glutton for punishment. And so got theirs done, got ours done, got it all in. How about you? Do you have any hitches or anything?
No, I just turn that over. My wife has a business herself, so we turn that over to the accountant and let them take care of it. Luckily, I am getting a nice return, so that's always a good thing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, sure. It beats our federal employees, federal government employees that owe $3.5 billion back taxes from 2011. I stumbled across this a couple of days ago, and looking at the federal government employees, 12% they jumped up in 2011 over 2010 that owe $3.5 billion, and whether they should be fired or lose, I wouldn't say lose their job. Well, I guess I am saying lose their job. Let me rephrase that. Whether they should lose their jobs or whether they should have their wages garnished. I don't know why federal employees would think that they would be different than the rest of us. But they owe a lot of money, and I think that they should have their wages garnished just as much as you and I do. But they're federal employees, so I don't know if that's going to happen with them.
Yeah, how do they? Is there any sort of special treatment that they get, or it's just that they're tracked more closely and we hear about it, or what was the story really about?
Well, it's just giving the amount of money. It didn't give too much information as far as whether they are exempt from having their wages garnished. It was just more of a interesting read on how much they owe, and they're our government. Why should they be treated any differently? Now, there's certain groups out there that say, well, because they're being hit with the sequester and they're not getting as much pay as they were before, that they should be exempt from having to pay their back taxes. Now, if that happened to you and me, I can guarantee you that little doorknob would be going on, and we'd have a little visitor at our front door.
Oh, yeah. I don't even want to think about that.
No.
That's why I always make sure and get it done. It of course, bugs the crud out of me when I'm doing it, but the alternative is having the IRS coming after you, so...
Yeah, coming after you for your money. I gotta love it.
Yeah, exactly. Which they see as theirs.
Of course. We just borrow it.
I think I did hear, though, that there was it's probably just going to get lost in committee somewhere, that somebody did sponsor some legislation where they actually would fire federal employees who were behind on their taxes, or even more specifically, that they wouldn't hire somebody who has tax liens.
Well, that would mean most people wouldn't be able to run for office.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, wasn't it great? When our Treasury Secretary turned out basically cheated on his taxes right before he got put in as
Would that be Timothy Geithner you're talking about?
Yeah, tax cheat Geithner.
Imagine that someone who was appointed to that seat and they owed back taxes. Funny how he had to clear that up real quick.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and it was just TurboTax's fault, of course, you know.
Oh, see, I hadn't heard about that. See, I didn't know it was TurboTax's fault. So.
Oh, yeah. It's just he misunderstood the instructions. I use TurboTax, and I can tell you it's very dumbed down. So anybody who's supposed to be running our whole financial system for our country really ought to be able to use TurboTax without underpaying their taxes.
Well, very interesting, Andy. So, what is going on in your world, my friend?
Well, if anybody thinks of me still as Andy Pels from ScrewCrew.com, there is some interesting stuff on there, but if anybody's looked at it, I haven't updated that in a long time, so it's not really fair to call me that anymore. Except I did promise that there'll be a revolution in the fastener industry a couple of years ago, and that's still coming.
It is. And what do you think that's going to be?
That's the part where I get to cop out, is I don't know exactly. But I've been actually reading this book that I cannot remember the name of right now because it's on my Kindle, that was written in the late 90s, talking about how as digital products are becoming cheaper and cheaper and becoming, integrated into the network that we call the internet, the physical products like fasteners will be affected as well. And it's kind of interesting, the fact that it was written so long ago and predicting things that have been happening in the market, that we still haven't really seen a big change in the way fasteners are sold. I mean, it's done more efficiently because of the internet and really just because of computers. And if you think about it, we still haven't used the internet that well to change the way that we sell fasteners. One of the things, like, we talked in one of the previous shows about Amazon's foray into industrial products. I searched, I think, hex cap screw the other day, and I came up with a 5/16 by half slotted hex head in nylon black was the top result when I searched for a hex head cap screw. That just right there just shows you, they're probably the biggest player, or could be the biggest player in people going and looking for fasteners online who don't already have a source or who are looking for a different source. And it's just not being done well.
Yeah, so. I've recently we do have some clamp vendors that we use, and I had a customer that was using like 8-10 different sizes, but they were in small quantities, and they were asking us to go ahead and quote. And on, I'd say 90% of the items, it was cheaper for me to go on Amazon.com and buy them from there versus my usual supplier, which I had to go in and buy 100 minimum on these clamps. And these clamps were 2.5 inch, 1 inch, all the way down to 1/2 inch. And the larger quantities, you could buy 10 pieces, whereas my main supplier that was buying from a U.S. manufacturer had made us buy 100 pieces if we wanted to buy it from them. So it was cheaper for me to go on and use that, Amazon, compared to the vendors that we have now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There are ways that it's already happening with more specialized products. And like you said, if you just need a smaller quantity, sometimes it's easier just you go get 10 pieces from here if you can find them quickly online. I do that all the time. I needed some retaining ring pliers the other day, and our supplier would have taken a while. Our normal supplier would have taken a while and had a minimum and all that. I found them at Sears, for Pete's sake, for a great price. Online. It just popped up when I was searching. And I think that's more and more, in the fastener business, we have a lot of expertise to offer our customers. When I started 25 years ago, most of it seemed like it was, we know where to get the stuff and you don't. And we can't count on that anymore. Luckily, people like us, we have so much other expertise to offer, that we can still get plenty of business. But I think if especially more independent distributors like us can get plugged into the network that is the internet in a better way, we can not only sell in a larger geographic area, but we capture people from all over the world, basically.
This is true. I don't know about your company and what all you sell, but we sell abrasives, we sell Loctite, different chemicals, denatured alcohol, a little bit of everything from electrical to die springs. It really is. K&L Sales has become a major distributor for a wide variety, whereas the old days where you were a fastener company, you sold fasteners only. So it really has changed.
Oh, yeah. Because it seems like the distributors are here to stay, because I think we would have all seen some sort of not just market-related, but structure-related problem by now. If distributors were on their way out, and if people were going to be able to buy direct from manufacturers or from master distributors in any sort of efficient way, that would have happened by now. The internet would have made that happen by now. But obviously, it's not going to happen. So we're here to stay.
Unlike the radio hosts that they just come and go, and you can get new ones at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, see, you just plop a new one right in there.
Help the better show, whereas distributors, you can't quite do that. Everybody needs distributors for fasteners.
That's right. And as long as we have that line of distribution open for selling fasteners, and we do it so well, like you said, why not insert. It's funny because I know what you're talking about. 25 years ago, somebody would say, "Oh, I have this brass fitting. It's threaded. You can sell me this, right?" And I'd have to say, "No, I know it. To you, it looks like the same thing as this fastener I just sold you, but it's not, and I'm not allowed to sell it to you." But now, it's just boom, boom, boom. We can find it on the internet, mark it up a little, and take care of the customer.
Hopefully a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
You spoke of Screw Crew before. How did you come up with the name Screw Crew? Screw is the easy part, but the crew, is it just yourself?
It was just a long time ago. This is just me. It has nothing to do with the company I work for. It was just sort of, the internet was evolving, and I wanted a website, and was just fooling around with names, and Screw Crew at the time, somebody owned it, and then I think I just checked again about a year later, and they had given it up, which, I mean, you can imagine anything that rhymes, and of course now somebody would probably want it for a site that's not
yep.
not very family friendly, but a name like Screw Crew to be available, even back then, was kind of a big deal. So I snatched it up, and I've always just kind of fooled around with it. And right now I just have some weird fastener related things on there.
Well, I've got a vase on my desk here. That's a Phillips Drive flathead screw. It's that I found on your site just by going on your site, and then I clicked on some other ones, and then I found a fastener vase. I thought that was pretty cool. So I thank you for that.
You're welcome. That's another thing the internet is becoming is I put things on there that people are selling. I used to think, oh, I'm gonna make a bunch of money off this website, and I don't. Of course, I make nothing off of it, but it's fun, and I do put things on there that other people are selling, and that's kind of how the internet ends up working. Is we're all connecting with each other, and it's like, hey, here's this cool thing. Maybe you guys might like it. But then again, probably through this website, I don't even remember how I got to know Eric and Brian, but it was probably through the website.
Well, we won't hold that against you.
I was going to say, maybe I should be cursing the day that I ever bought the URL screwcrew.com.
Well, you never know. If this really works out, we could start something else.
I will tell everybody from experience now, because I've thought about other websites that I might try, just leave the word screw out of it. Trust me. Yeah. When you do searches for any sort of website with the word screw in it, a lot of places actually will block my email address because it has the word screw in it, things like that. Like, I couldn't use Screw Crew as my company name on Facebook because it had the word screw in it. Things like that. It's unfair. It's unfair to the fastener world, but unfortunately it's the world we live in, and the internet really is. If it's owned by anybody, it's probably owned by the skin industry.
Yep, gotcha. Well, we got a great show lined up for you today. Andy, I'm looking forward to it. It's Fully Threaded Radio. Our main sponsor is Stelfast. For service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stelfast. We'll be back momentarily with Jason Sandefur from Global Fastener News, filling in for Mike McNulty.
Brian and Eric, Fully Threaded Radio. It's Fastener Dog-Approved Talk Radio for the fastener industry.
Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been servicing the fastener community since 1905. An employee-owned company for 33 years, we take great pride in the quality of products we sell, offering outstanding customer service from our very knowledgeable sales team members. Our standard product lines include graded weld screws, resistance weld fasteners, leg levelers, tube inserts, clevis pins, and various other fasteners. We have complete custom manufacturing capabilities in low carbon, medium carbon, and stainless steel materials, and our quality systems are registered to ISO standards. We also have an entire team of sourcing specialists able to locate those hard-to-find items with typically smaller minimums and shorter lead times than that of our competition. We offer same-day shipments from one of our warehouses, strategically located throughout the United States and Canada, enabling us to fulfill all your fastener needs in a very timely manner. To find out more about Buckeye Fasteners, please call us at 800-437-1689 or visit us on the web at buckeyefasteners.com. Buckeye Fasteners, product support from development to implementation.
Hi everyone, it's Brian Musker. If you're listening to Fully Threaded, then you're no doubt aware of the FCH sourcing network found at fastenersclearinghouse.com. You've probably also heard about our legendary scrubber software that makes listing your inventory on FCH a snap. But have you heard about the new FCH SmartLink interface? With SmartLink, users of Business Edge, InSQL, and Distribution One have a new weapon in the war against excess inventory, because each of these platforms now links directly to the FCH scrubber system through an automated interface. The best part is that this new tool is available at no additional charge to FCH members who use Business Edge, InSQL, or Distribution One. With SmartLink, you can keep your inventory listings up to date with the click of a button, so it's a win-win for all FCH users. The new FCH FastLink interface is really big news, and we'll be thrilled to have your company using it. Business Edge, InSQL, and Distribution One users should contact their software provider for details, or just call me, Brian Musker. You can reach me through the FCH website at www.fastenersclearinghouse.com. That's fasteners with an S, and the S is for scrubber.
Our hearts are in fasteners, so join us in the heart of the fastener industry for Fastener Tech 13. This is Nancy Rich, Fastener Tech Show Manager, inviting you to join us June 10th through 12th for an event hosted by Midwest Fastener Association and Fastener Technology International and sponsored by Fastener Industry Groups. This is an event produced by the fastener industry for the fastener industry. Its success returns to the industry through scholarships, education, and various other programs. Fastener Tech allows many fastener and fastener-related companies a great opportunity to meet with their industry and source many products in one location. The trade show will feature fastener manufacturers, heat treaters, platers, and other fastener service companies. Fastener Tech will also feature educational and industry informational seminars. You'll also have the chance to enjoy several social events. Your time at Fastener Tech will include great networking opportunities. Fastener Tech 13 will be held at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont, Illinois. Be part of an event bringing American industry together. More details of this event may be found at www.fastenertech.com or at www.mwfa.net.
This is John Gaudette with Metric and Multi-Threaded Components, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Well, welcome back to the Butler Pels show, where I'm sure you're going to have to pay to listen to this podcast so that Andy and I can make some money while we're recording this show and make up for the money lost.
This will certainly be an episode that will not be free. I'm sure it'll cost at least $9.99 on iTunes.
It's very popular. We'll put it on all those pay sites and get some real nice hits there from names of Screw Crew and things of that nature.
Or if you're listening to the show for free, you can always send a donation. If you feel bad about, we could do like a pledge drive on like they do on PBS.
Excellent.
And make people feel bad for getting it for free and send us some money.
Oh, I'm sure we'll make a lot of money there, Andy.
Yeah, there we go.
Well,
we can retire, finally.
Well, next we have the Global Fastener News Report with Jason Sandefur. We want to thank our sponsor, Volt Industrial Plastics, for the Global Fastener News Report. Take it away, Jason.
Thanks, John and Andy. And now for the latest Fastener News Report. I'm Jason Sandefur, contributing editor of GlobalFastenerNews.com, sitting in this week for Mike McNulty. Today's top headlines include an update on the Bay Bridge bolts, the latest development in the Nucor Fastener anti-dumping case, as well as acquisition and sales reports. All of that is brought to you by Volt Industrial Plastics. And we'll get to that right after this.
Volt Industrial Plastics is the source for all your high-quality plastic fastener needs, and customer service is their #1 priority. With almost 1 million fasteners in stock and same-day shipping on stock items, Volt Industrial Plastics carries inventory so you don't have to. Volt manufactures everything in-house from over 125 different materials, and they're proud to say 100% of their products are American-made. And of course, custom tooling and in-house bagging is available. Contact Volt online at www.voltplastics.com. Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners.
For a selection of hundreds of thousands of fasteners, check out your local Fastenal store or Fastenal.com. We can stock domestic or internationally sourced product locally and keep your bin stock filled for you at no additional expense. We are a 9001-2008 certified company that's made a huge investment in quality control so you don't have to. And if you can't find it on our shelf, we can make it for you at the quantity you need at one of our many manufacturing facilities. Learn more by contacting your local Fastenal store or visiting Fastenal.com today.
Officials investigating the 32 snapped anchor rods on the new $6.4 billion eastern span of the Oakland Bay Bridge have narrowed their focus to two distinct batches of bolts manufactured by Ohio-based Dyson Corp. One batch included a total of 96 rods manufactured and installed in 2008. The quote-unquote failed bolts came from that batch and were encased in concrete as part of shear key construction. The second batch of anchor rods, totaling 192, are through bolts manufactured in 2010 and installed in 2011. Conflicting reports have been published in various media outlets regarding the tests these bolts were subjected to. For example, the Sacramento Bee reported that some steel anchor bolts produced in 2010 failed the same tests as the malfunctioning 2008 bolts. But several fastener experts told globalfastenernews.com that much of the information released to the public has inadvertently garbled the facts and produced confusion. To set the record straight, it's important to remember that bolts are progressively more susceptible to hydrogen failures as steel hardness increases, starting at somewhere between HRC 35 and HRC 39. Tensile strength of 163,000 to 181,000 psi. Below HRC 35, hydrogen failures are all but impossible. Neither doing a core hardness test only, nor a tensile test tell you anything about whether a steel bolt actually failed as a result of hydrogen. The maximum hardness at any location within the part, the appearance of the fracture surface, whether or not the failure was immediate or delayed, and the location of the fracture are the results that help determine if hydrogen was a factor in the failure. Galvanizing might have been a contributing factor in this case, though that appears highly unlikely at this time. It's interesting to note that all of the bolts on this project were geomet finished, which is free of all hydrogen problems, but the designers decided to use galvanizing on the failed threaded rods. In response, bridge officials are exploring a two-part solution. The first involves retrofitting the shear key where the embedded bolts failed. One retrofit idea that design engineers are exploring involves placing a steel collar around the base. Theoretically, they could also replace the embedded bolts, though officials quickly pointed to significant problems involving rebar congestion and accessibility. The second part of the solution is the continued monitoring of the 192 through bolts from the 2010 batch to determine whether or not they should be replaced. Officials expressed cautious optimism that they won't encounter hydrogen problems with those bolts, but indicated they are exploring what it would take to replace them. In legal news, the anti-dumping petition filed by Nucor Fastener against imports of certain steel fasteners manufactured in China and Taiwan is moving forward. Senior Judge Richard W. Goldberg of the U.S. Court of International Trade conducted a hearing in New York in mid-March to review the key issues in the case. The issues were previously remanded to the U.S. International Trade Commission, which ruled again unanimously that there was no reasonable indication of injury. Importer lead counsel Matthew McGrath of Barnes, Richard & Colburn, LLP, told GlobalFastenerNews.com he expects a written decision in the next few months. Goldberg, appointed to the court in 1991 by then-President George H.W. Bush, is the third judge assigned to the case in the last 3 years. Judge Evan J. Wallach, a President Bill Clinton appointee, was the original judge in the case. Wallach passed the case to veteran CIT Judge Gregory W. Carman after being appointed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. Carmen was appointed by President Ronald Reagan in 1983. In its anti-dumping petition filed in September 2009, Nucor Fastener alleged average dumping margins of 145% for Chinese imports and 74% for imports from Taiwan. Moving on to sales results, Fastenal says it's unhappy with its fastener market growth. Amid a surge in its vending program, Fastenal's fastener efforts got downgraded in recent years, prompting the company to create its OEM Fastener initiative in mid-2012 to reinvigorate lagging sales. But the turnaround in fastener sales has not come as quickly as the company would like. We're not happy with where we're at with the fastener growth, and we're going to address that, Fastenal President Leland J. Hines said in a conference call transcribed by SeekingAlpha.com. Fastenal sells about $1.35 billion worth of fasteners annually. Of the $16.7 billion North American market, Fastenal controls about 7.9%. Overall, Fastenal moves about 200 million pounds of fasteners per year. Nucor Corp reported a sequential rise in fastener segment results. Cold finished steel sales, including Nucor fastener revenue, declined 12% to 122,000 tons in the opening quarter of 2013, compared with the first quarter of 2012. However, cold finished steel sales improved 17% from the previous quarter. Overall, Nucor sales decreased 10% to $4.55 billion, compared with the first quarter of 2012, but rose 2% from the previous quarter. Average sales price per ton increased 7% from the first quarter of 2012. Total tons shipped to outside customers were 5.7 million tons in the first quarter of 2013. Grainger reported solid first quarter results. Grainger sales, including fasteners, increased 4% to $2.3 billion. Sales increased 6% on a daily basis, consisting of 3 percentage points from volume, 2 percentage points from price, 1 percentage point from acquisitions, and 1 percentage point from higher sales of seasonal products. Sales for the U.S. segment increased 4% to $1.77 billion, or 6% on a daily basis, driven by 3 percentage points from price, 2 percentage points from volume, and 1 percentage point from acquisitions. U.S. sales growth was spurred by solid growth in the light and heavy manufacturing, natural resources, commercial, and contractor end markets. Chicago Rivet and Machine Co. reported 2012 revenue increased to the highest level in 5 years, while net income increased to the highest level in a decade. Sales rose 10.7% to $34.2 million, aided by domestic automotive production that reached its highest level since 2007, as well as increased volume to certain non-automotive customers. The increase in revenue more than offset raw material price fluctuations, resulting in 39% net income gain to $1.7 million, or $1.81 per share. Fastener segment sales grew 11.4% to $31 million. The fourth quarter of 2012 marked the 13th consecutive quarter of sales exceeding the year earlier quarter. Higher raw material prices early in the year receded as the year progressed, leaving most cost of sales components increasing at the year's inflationary rate. The combination of higher sales and moderate increases in cost components resulted in an increase in fastener segment gross margins of $866,000 during 2012. The Bossard Group generated a 22.8% increase in revenue to 156 million Swiss francs in the first quarter of 2013. The revenue jump was primarily due to the integration of KVT Fastening, which was acquired at the end of November 2012. Without the KVT acquisition and divestment of Bossard Metrics Inc. USA, revenue fell 0.9%. Bossard sales in North America and Asia improved, while sales in Europe showed signs of increased demand from the second half of 2012. In acquisition news, MSC Industrial Direct completed its $550 million acquisition of the North American distribution business of the Barnes Group. Headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio, BD&A distributes fasteners and other high-margin, low-cost consumables with a distribution footprint throughout the U.S. and Canada, and 2012 sales of approximately $300 million. JC Sales and Rivet Incorporated is marking its 65th year in business, manager Alan Weitzman announced. Founded in 1948 in Detroit by Jack J.C. Clinton, as a small store selling shoes, socks, pants, war supplies, and more. Soon JC began selling nuts, bolts, screws, and rivets. Today, JC stocks 8 million pounds of inventory in 35,000 square feet of space at its facility in Farmington, Michigan. In trade show news, Brooks Jeffrey Marketing Inc. will present a seminar on corporate image branding and web marketing during the 3rd All-American Fastener Show. The trade show will be May 9th, 2013 at the Intercontinental Hotel at the Plaza in Kansas City. The show lists 35 exhibiting companies on its website, allamericanfastenershow.com. And last but not least, Ackland's Grainger announced its largest ever product expansion, adding 200,000 new products to its online offering over the next several months. With this expansion, the company will offer more than 300,000 products. The number of products now available online has doubled in size, which can help customers lower total MRO costs by consolidating vendors. The expansion crosses all existing product categories and includes the addition of 9,700 new online fastener items, such as anchors, bolts, nuts, pins, rivets, screws, thread inserts, and washers. This product expansion complements the Ackland's Grainger 2013 catalog, which launched in February and offers 116,000 products in 11 categories. Founded in 1889, Ackland's Grainger operates 175 branches and 6 distribution centers throughout Canada. This has been the Fastener News Report. I'm Jason Sandefur. I invite you to follow up on these and other news items on globalfastenernews.com.
Next up, we have Rob Lucas, just back from Taiwan Fastener Show. Thank you for listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stelfast. Since 1976, Stelfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stelfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stelfast today through our website at www.stelfast.com and put us to work for you. Stelfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
FastenersClearinghouse.com. Search and source from over 500,000 line items, or just a mouse click away and available at no charge. When the need arises, you won't find a better place to locate hard-to-find fastener inventory. It's where you need to be.
This is Joe Truckee of Cal Fasteners, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for us.
This is Robert Wanzer, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for American Imperial.
This is Andy Pels from ScrewCrew.com, and FCH works for the fastener industry.
Join the sourcing network now and show your inventory to a whole new market. Turn slow movers into cash. List up to 10,000 line items. Show them to distributors only or to the world. FastenersClearinghouse.com. It's where you need to be.
Fastener friends, if you're looking to celebrate a big sale, or if you just want to unwind after a tough day on the job, do it with the golden brown goodness of Old Rusty Bolt beer. It is the finest tasting beer in the fastener world because Old Rusty Bolt beer is brewed specifically to satisfy the palates of fastener folks everywhere. That name again, Old Rusty Bolt beer. An Old Rusty Bolt added to every bottle to enhance flavoring. Get some today. The preceding message was brought to you by Buckeye Fasteners and Your Nut and Bolt Company, official fastener show sponsors of Old Rusty Bolt, the preferred beer of traveling salesmen. Tell them Rusty sent ya.
Hey, this is Clayton Allen from Buckeye Fasteners in Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Next, we have Fidelis Fasteners and Rob Lucas on the line with us. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Morning, guys. Great. How are you?
Hi, Rob.
So I hear you're back from abroad?
Yeah, I just got back on Saturday night. So I was over there for almost a little over 2 weeks and just getting over my jet lag, or trying to get over my jet lag.
Was that at the Taiwan Fastener Show?
Yeah, I did that. I did some other trips to Asia as well, but I was at the Tainan show for actually a day and a half.
And how was the show?
It was okay, and when I say okay, that's, I would say, pretty gracious. It was a 3-day show, and it was in Tainan this time, and it was in a pretty poor location. Nothing much around it. It was in an old warehouse, so the building wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't terrible either. The vendors that were there were mainly trading companies, and I would say it was probably 80+% trading companies versus direct manufacturing. Now, that's on the distribution side of it. There were some manufacturing ends, some cold headers and things like that, and tooling. But for the most part, it was, I would say, the bulk of it was trading companies. I spoke to quite a few people there that I knew, and the first day seemed to be relatively okay. There was some decent traffic. It was a 3-day show. It was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The last 2 days of the show, I got negative feedback from the exhibitors, who said that it didn't have the kind of traffic that they expected. So for me, it was kind of a disappointing show, but it was good to see old friends too.
Was there a lot of foreign companies that were there that were exhibiting, or was it just from the Taiwan trading companies, basically?
Yeah, mainly Taiwan. The bulk of it was Taiwan companies, and the bulk of that was Taiwan trading companies. There were a handful of, during traffic, I saw, maybe on a handful of U.S. type distributors or customers that were kind of walking the show that had made the trip over there, but not as many as last year. And of course, last year was a little different venue, and it'll be different next year as well, where it'll be back in Kaohsiung. It'll be more of the headlining direct manufacturers. So I did see some European guys doing some traffic to the show. Quite a few domestic Taiwanese guys walking the show as well.
Okay, for someone that's never attended the show, what kind of attendance do you have there? Thousands or hundreds or?
Oh, I wouldn't even venture to guess. I would say there was probably. And again, I'm guessing because I don't have the information in front of me. You've got me off guard with this one. There was a couple hundred exhibitors, high end, 300-400 exhibitors, and there was probably the first day there, a couple thousand people that had walked through. I couldn't even venture to take a stab on Friday or Saturday. I was only there a half a day on Friday. And it was relatively slow, and on Saturday I did not attend.
I see. Well, I just do want to preface this with Andy and myself. You will get more cutting-edge, harder questions to answer compared to what you're used to.
Okay, good. I was nervous about that. Eric's pretty soft.
So I've heard. If you've seen him at the gym, everybody thinks he works out pretty hard, but he's actually a soft guy.
It's performance enhanced, too.
I wasn't going there.
I'm going to admit my ignorance, and when you're talking about mostly being trading companies there, what's really going on at this show then? Are they all kind of just dealing with each other, or
no,
what's the main purpose?
Trading companies are more like brokers. You go to them for any kind of a widget, and they go out to manufacturers. They're kind of a one-stop shop or a broker. As opposed to direct manufacturing, who like a Jen Hur or somebody who makes a specific product. There were, like I said, literally a handful of direct manufacturers there that we would all know tried and true. Bright and Best was there. I'd consider them a trading company. They're an importer here, but they're a jack of all trades, one-stop shop kind of a thing. There was a lot of that.
Oh, okay.
And quite frankly, most of them are relatively small companies.
Okay, so it's like those guys you hear about that come out here once in a while and just sort of, hey, give me a sample and I'll take it back and get a quote on.
Yeah. And
Okay.
there's value to that too. Don't get me wrong. I use some trading companies, and I've got some friends who are long-term friends in trading companies who I value. They're good for specific items, but it's not as beneficial when you're going over to, for me, it's a no-brainer. I go there all the time. But if you were to make a trip over there to see or to get some inroads into manufacturing, that was less of a productive show than I would think most are. But again, there is a lot of pros to it. There's a lot of good guys there, a lot of things that they can offer that some of the bigger guys can't offer. And, they do things pretty quick, good communicators. They understand our business. So there's a lot of pros to it, but I don't want to play it off as completely negative. It's valuable to go there. It just was not what I thought customers that I was traveling with and customers that I saw over there were expecting.
Mm-hmm. About the rest of your travels over there on your last trip, anything new going on?
No, I spent some time in China. China's got some issues, obviously. The yuan or the RMB is appreciating. Not at a quick pace, but it certainly is appreciating. But they've got issues that a lot of people don't think of when you talk about purchasing from overseas. They've got an employment issue where people are demanding higher wages, which is going to cause obviously some trouble to them. They've got their own domestic cooling off period that they're trying to heat back up. They just have some overall. They've got a potential housing bubble that's going on. So there are some issues in China, but I don't think they're drastic to us in the fastener world. But it's probably nothing new to most people if they follow it. Steel costs are what they are, and more than likely going to rise a little bit in the upcoming year, but nothing I would say dramatic. It's we've been relatively flat on steel costs for a year, so seeing a couple of increases is not shocking. It's just a question of how much can they push through. But really not a whole lot of new and exciting information on this trip. I did quite a bit of travel in China, Shanghai, Ningbo, Haiyan, Wenzhou, Guangdong. I was in Hong Kong for a few days at my office. So, I'd spent some time there. I traveled with a few customers of mine who, we saw some vendors. There's some vendors in China are, I guess if I could say one thing that's new, they're really, really becoming more proactive on how they look at their quality and how they look at the U.S. And a lot of these vendors are seeking TS certification. Most of them are ISO already, but they're seeking the TS, which is much more automotive related. And they're becoming much more skilled at parts that they made, which is fantastic, I would say. And it's indicative by the boxes you see on the floor of who's buying from them.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there's a lot of people in the States.
Oh, who they're selling to. Gotcha.
Correct. The packaging on the floor, you can see, customers who are, staples in the industry and people who you thought, oh, they found China too. So that to me, over the years, I've seen China slowly and steadily kind of rising with the customer base in the States, and they're becoming more and more popular. There's some holes there, and you've got to find the right vendors, and there's a lot of risk when you don't know the right vendor. But the vendors who are proactive are the ones that are growing.
And not everybody just buys from Fidelis Fasteners and lets you take care of that, so they don't have any risk?
Unfortunately, no, they don't. I've really tried to brainwash people, but it doesn't seem to work.
See, that's that softball that Eric throws to you. I thought I'd just, one for him.
Well, speaking of softballs, I really was curious. Some of the things that there's financial transactions and customs issues that always make me nervous. That's why I've never done any of this stuff direct. But what are some of the cultural things that we would probably not be aware of that you're an expert at?
Well, I'm not sure what you're asking.
Just in the, they do. It seems like in Asia in general, they try harder to do business the way we do it than we try to do the way they do it. But are there some things that we wouldn't know of just doing transactions that are different than the way it's done in the United States?
Not really. I think that, I tell most of my customers, actually I tell all my customers, do what you say and say what you'll do, because they follow that. And there are people that, tend to think, well, I can go late on a few things. It's traditional. If you do something bad, somebody always remembers it. They never remember the good. And, there's people that worry about contracts and all that stuff that goes on with Asia. They don't really care. It's more of a relationship thing for them. I mean, granted, they want the money in the business. And if you find the right vendors, they'll make what you're asking for and typically deliver it as quoted and as required. But there are times when people need to call in poker chips and, get stuff in a rush. And they remember the people who work well with them versus the ones who don't. And I would say that's pretty similar to the way it is here, but it's really relationship driven more than anything else. And that's kind of what I sell is relationships. Anybody can find a part. It's finding the right factory to make that part and finding the right relationship that's tailored to what your needs are. And that takes time to do, and I've had success and I've had a lot of failures in the past. I've learned the hard way. So I'm much more reluctant about how to deal with vendors than I have been in the past. But culturally, I think they try harder to do what we want than we try to do what they want. That's how I see it. I think that they recognize in all of Asia, and especially today, the U.S. is really the forefront cash cow for them because of the anti-dumping in Europe and the obviously the economy in Europe. We're kind of coming out of that recession, and they're still relying on us to be an integral part of their business. So they tend to really want to work with us more. They're also very, very cautious from things that have happened in the last few years as far as terms and payments go. But again, with the relationship and with some history, there's a lot of hurdles that can be overcome relatively quickly.
Okay. So it is becoming a smaller world now. I mean, because I used to read articles all the time about how you have to say this thing a certain way or you have to behave a certain way when you're dealing with people from across the world. But I guess we're all communicating enough that a lot of that stuff is falling away.
Yeah, and it's changed. 20 years ago was much different than it is today. But it's like you said, the world has shrunk dramatically, and it's a email away if you know them well, and it's not a bad trip to go over. I recommend everybody go and see it once. You certainly get a better feel for how they do things. They come here often for the shows, so I recommend that people see them as well.
That's a great idea. I mean, that's one of the things I always hear you talk about is that I always forget you've got customers with you when you go on these trips much of the time. And that's something that if I were in the position to be doing that, it would make me feel much more comfortable about it, going over there and seeing it and actually meeting the people, like you said, the relationships.
It goes a long way. I mean, it's so hard to make that as a selling point, when I go and cold call on somebody, but it is so valuable when they can put a face to an email and do a couple of pieces of business with them and they start to understand you and you share information. It's amazing the way that they'll work with you and the way that they understand what you want. And so much more can come out of just a simple trip and seeing them. That foot on the ground there, I guess in a short, it shows them that they're legit. You're really here in my country. You made the 7,000-mile flight over to see me. You must be sincere.
Yeah.
Versus, a guy who emails them once a month and sends them an order here and there. They get that.
Yeah. I've been curious lately because of some of the news that's been going on. I know you were overseas when a lot of the big stories happened over here, and we all know about those. How do you get news over there? Do you have to rely on local news? And then I realized sometimes the internet over there doesn't tell you everything that it tells you over here. I mean, they block internet over there, don't they?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I had a couple of customers with me who couldn't do some of the things I was doing, and they didn't understand why. And me traveling over there, I've learned how to navigate some Filipino servers to get some information. In Taiwan, it's relatively easy. You can get Twitter and Facebook and all that crap, and you can get the USA Today. In China, you can get if you have a smartphone, you can get a USA Today app, which would basically feed you all the information. I'm not sure how much they deleted out, but in China, you cannot do Twitter, you cannot do Facebook, you can't do LinkedIn. They block all that social networking.
Huh.
And I was in China, as a matter of fact, when the Boston travesty happened. And I said to the guys I was with, hey, did you hear about what happened in Boston? He said, no. I said, well, look. And, of course, I showed them my smartphone, and they all ran to get the app, and they couldn't download the app because they didn't have it before they left.
Oh.
But you can get it on there. But as far as television goes, China's becoming much more open, but it's still CCTV. It's closed-circuit television that the Chinese government pumps through. You can get a couple of BBC stations depending on what hotel you're in. But that's mainly in Shanghai. When you go into South China or more central China, you lose touch with pretty much everything. And it's hard to tell that to people. So yeah, when it comes to things, my biggest concern going over there was, before I left, was our friend in North Korea. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's going to be trouble here, and there was deadlines coming up. So I had my eye on that the entire time. And when I was in Taiwan, it was close to the Wednesday deadline. He was puffing his chest up. I got all that in Taiwan. And then I flew to China, and I'm lost. Because I could not get any information on standard internet there. So I had to go through a Filipino internet thing to see some of the information. But you can still get quite a bit of news.
Yeah, but I imagine even the news about North Korea has a much different tack over there than it does here when they're talking about it, right?
Yeah, it was kind of. I did a lot of discussions about him in Taiwan, and most of the people saw it as a paper tiger. He's just puffing his chest up. And I guess I was a little bit more pessimistic, thinking that here's a young kid trying to cut his teeth and he's going to prove to the world and do something foolish. And I guess that was me more worried about being in China, which is big brother to North Korea. And I got to China, I talked to a couple of guys about it and said, what do you think about this? What's your take on this? And they were pretty much, it was very surprising. This is something that I guess I never thought about before. The Chinese are not, and when I say Chinese, I'm talking about the Chinese nationals. I don't know what the government thinks. But the Chinese were saying to me that they don't like North Korea. And I said, why? They're your last communist brother. They're part of what you guys represent. He said, well, the problem with that is what you don't hear in the States is there are more mass influx of North Koreans crossing the border into China, where we as Chinese have to feed them and support them because they're fleeing their own country. And we don't like that. And this guy is when they say this guy, Kim Jong, they have kind of made this mass exodus in North Korea happen. So they're not real happy with it. And they're more on the stance of, we want to see China act as the big brother and kind of guide North Korea in the right path. Now that's a Chinese national non-political discussion. I'm not sure what Beijing would have to say about it, but I was really worried, and they kind of calmed me down. And paper tiger, and lo and behold, what could happen? Nothing. It's been quiet here. For the last 2 weeks, we haven't heard anything out of the guy.
Yeah.
China is kind of like, I relate it to Canada. There's a 40-mile swath, from the north end of America into Canada, where all the industry's at. When you go up northern into Canada, it kind of dies out. China is the same way. From Beijing down to Hong Kong along the seaboard is really where all the industry's at and where all the money's at. And when you leave that portion and go into more centralized China, there's where the real population is at. They don't see the world the same way that this coastal region does. And I've had this question, in my mind for 15 years, and every time I see somebody new in China, I ask them the same thing. The people in China along this seaboard, it's very clear to me over the last 20 plus years I've been traveling there, they have grown dramatically, and they've gotten more freedoms, and they've gotten more, I would call luxury items. You see a lot more nicer cars, BMWs, Lamborghinis and Maseratis in China. There's a lot of money along that seaboard, and these people are, as they get wealthier, they start to request more freedoms, like everybody else in the world has done. And my question has always been, how does the government react to that? Somewhere down the line, they're either going to have to allow this growth of the people to have more freedom, or they're going to have to let the leash out, or they're going to have to jerk it back and say no. And I'm not sure the government knows how to do that. And that's part of their housing bubble problem. In China, nobody really owns anything. They've got these leases, 50-year leases on their homes. Well, if you're a startup couple, and you've just gotten married and you're going to have a baby and you want to go out on your own and you start to look for housing, you can go to a house and go, I really like this and I'd like to buy it from you, but you only have 15 years left on your lease. And I'm not sure what the government's going to do, so I don't think I want to buy your house. I'd rather go buy it someplace else where I know I'm more guaranteed. And no one really, I don't think today, has an answer on what the government is going to do with all this. That applies to both industrial and residential buildings, because basically China owns it all. So I think over the next decade or so, we're going to see how this government reacts to this. But my guess would be there's a billionaire a day in China. Every day there's a new billionaire. That speaks volumes. There's people there that have a lot of money, and that kind of money is going to demand resources. And it's amazing the amount of industry that's going to come into that country. I met a couple of guys in a hotel this week that do private jets, and they're housing them in Hong Kong because of the fees are astronomical for private jets to be brought in from out of the country into China. They're really trying to establish a private jet entity in China for these wealthy because they demand it, but the fees are so high. And I think that'll change and evolve, and other things like that will change and evolve. So it's going to be interesting to see how the government reacts. My guess would be that they're going to be much more liberal than we expect them to be. And it's nice to have friends there. You know, I love going there. I love meeting new people. I love seeing the same people that I always see because you learn more. I learn something every trip.
And it's so funny that you worried about getting a little bit off topic. You've heard the show, right?
What's that?
You said something in there about, well, maybe we're getting a little off topic, but you've heard the regular show with Brian and Eric, right?
Oh yeah.
They're not too concerned about it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to give them a hard time. Those guys, a lot of the reasons I listen to the show is for the things that aren't quite specifically on Fastener topic, but they're very interesting.
Yeah.
Excellent. For some people that may not be familiar with Fidelis Fasteners, if you want to fill them in exactly what you do and how it works.
I don't know what I do. I mean, I kind of make a joke that, where I'm the reverend and marrying up distributors and manufacturers, and while you two are married, I'm looking for a mistress. My job really is to try to find quality sources that are quantified and qualified with some history. I just don't Google source, vendors and turn them on to customers here. I try to find like fits for both parties. And that means, I know that this distributor does this kind of business, and I know his history, and I know he's got good credit, and his D&B's okay, and he's been around a long time, and there's no risk. And I do the same for the vendors. This vendor is, qualified. They make X parts. They do these really well. There's no BS here. They don't do this well, but they do this well. I kind of communicate all that. And then at the end of it, I kind of say, okay, you guys, I make some introductions, sort of a matchmaker, and say, get together and start to build a relationship. And I think that's what makes me just a little bit different than most other people. I'm not a manufacturer's rep. I don't take, any kind of a fee from the vendors. My fee comes from my customer base, where I'm essentially an extension of their sourcing arm. And it's based off of performance. If I find you a factory that has a competitive price and it works out well for you, and you buy from them and it works, and everything goes smooth, once you pay the vendor for the products you procured, you pay me. And that's given me a fair foothold with the vendors overseas to be able to be really open and say, hey, look, we had to move because you were high or you had a problem. And it keeps them in line. And that's the bulk of what I do. And, when I take these trips like I just did, I had a couple of customers with me where we toured some factories. It's open book. My hands are on the table. There's no secrets. I take them into the factories. They can contact those factories direct if they like. They can go through me. It's pretty much an open channel. But the end message is to get those two, both customer and vendor supplier, to build a relationship long term so that they can both benefit from it.
But how about customer retention? How are you finding that for yourself? And are you seeing that you're getting more and more clients these days, or is it staying steady?
Well, my business is kind of a hybrid model. My whole focus really is to, like I told you before, to kind of get into for lack of a better term, a buying department or a secondary arm of sourcing for my customers. And there's a contract that's tied with that where, we open up each other's information and share everything openly. Yeah. That part of my business has stayed steady as can be. I haven't lost any customers to speak of. Maybe one or two, just based off sheer volume, nothing of a failure or a problem. And then I have another group of customers who are kind of like Andy said, they don't know much about it and they don't want to deal with customs or freight and that thing. And they just send me quotes and say, can you go find me this widget? And that's where I become a trading company or a broker. I'll go out and quote a part to a factory. Then I'll load up all the freight costs and duty and everything like that and quote to that customer a landed fee to their door. And that's a margin the risk is on me. I'm now responsible to pay that vendor. I'm the bank, so to speak. So I charge a higher margin for that at times. And that's really kind of a side business to me. That's grown. I mean, there's a lot of people now that really are looking more and more to Asia for parts. And out of that, but once or twice a year, I'll pick up a new account who signs with me, long term, based off of the initial brokerage part of it.
And that's how we've done some business. Well, we've tried to, per se. We've done a couple parts that you've quoted for us and quoted well, just haven't come to placing an order as of yet.
Yeah. And I'm not always the cheapest, and I never profess to be the cheapest. And anybody who says that's probably just flat out lying. And there is such a thing as a cost of quality. I mean, if you called me and said, I want the cheapest part in the world, I could find it for you, but I can't guarantee that it's going to work for you. And there's a risk associated with that. Yeah, I have customers about every year. I'll get 2 or 3 phone calls from somebody who did the Google search. And they said, hey, I need help. Next time you go over to China, can you go see this factory? And I say, sure, what happened? And they say, well, we bought parts and they came in, we got the samples and they were great. And then the production came in and it was terrible and we need help. And I say, how'd you find them? They say, well, we found them on Google. And, most of the time when that happens, their money's lost. They've gone to a bad house, or they've gone to somebody who was basically a rep who shipped parts through an export licensed company, and the money's gone. And that's kind of what I protect my client base from. You're dealing with factories that have a history. They're going to be around. They're going to make the parts they're supposed to make, and they're going to have decent quality to them, or better than what you've expected. And they're communicative. And because of that, I'm not always the cheapest. Now, I certainly try to be as competitive as anybody else in the market, but you can't always be the lowest cost guy in the market. I think I bring value because I reduce the risk and I keep people competitive.
Oh, even a fastener mistress has to make money.
That's right. Not a hobby.
What do you see coming up in the future for the rest of this year?
I think that it's going to stay, relatively flat. I mean, from the U.S. perspective, I think we're going to stay flat. I don't think that there's nothing to me that indicates, other than the stock market, that indicates growth. And I think the stock market's growing because it's 0% interest. But as far, you drive down the road, you don't see a lot of construction, you don't see new housing, you don't see manufacturing the way that people talk about it. Now, I'm sure there's some out there, and there's some new manufacturing going on in the States, but it's very, very minimal. So I think for the balance of the year, it's going to stay relatively flat in the U.S. market. I think in Asia, they also recognize that. I'm sure they're going to try to push through a few price increases on material. And that's related to not only fuel costs, but raw material. The ore itself has gone up, or sometimes it's gone down depending on stainless or carbon steel. But I think we're going to see a couple of soft cost increases that don't equate to a whole lot, a couple of points here and there. I don't think we're going to see 17 points this year. And quite frankly, I don't know if they can get it. But I think we're going to have to see something like that just because of the way that Asia's working.
And growth with Fidelis Fasteners?
Yeah, I've had, I had a pretty rough January, February, but that's kind of not surprising. We came off of the holidays, and of course everybody did a mad dash for the Chinese New Year. And, it got soft again. What I think is, and I could be wrong, I think because of the last 4 years and the way the economy has gone in the States, people have learned how to operate their businesses on no inventory. I mean, they're to the bare bones. And I think that has caused this cause and effect of, you look in your system rearview mirror and it said I needed 12,400,000 pieces. In the past, people would go, well, give me 13 million pieces. And in the last couple of years, it's give me 12,400,000 pieces. Now it's give me 8 million, and I'll up it if I need to later. I think people are operating as low as possible because they're still a little bit afraid. Our economy has been really, really soft and people are cash conscious. So I don't think that we're going to see the amount of spend that traditionally we have. I mean, and it's indicative by the Fortune 500 companies having more liquid assets than they've ever had in the past. People are holding on to the cash.
Anything else you want to hit on?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about the Second Amendment.
As it relates to fasteners.
Yeah. Oh no, related to fasteners. I don't know what to say to people these days. I think that you've got to be very cautious with what you do. You've got some extremely competitive pricing here in the States from some of the big guys. I don't know where that's going to go or where it's going to lead, but it makes life for people like me difficult. And there's no argument about it. They have been a thorn in everybody's side with their pricing. I kind of feel that there might be some risk in the days ahead with the amount of SKUs that some of these master importers are carrying. Will they continue to carry that? In a world where you're trying to maintain business instead of growing it, they seem to be adding a lot of SKU lines to their inventory list. Math would dictate that their turns cannot be very high on that, and somewhere down the road there's replacement costs. All of those things are just factual. It's not an opinion. It's how long can they continue to sell. And I quote today, and the way I quote is today's cost overseas. And I have several customers who have said, hey, look, you got a great price, but I can buy it from so and so in the States for 20% less. And if you do the math, they're selling it at cost to steel or less. You question how long can that last? So, I guess I would, if I could say anything to people, it's, whether you buy through me or direct or domestically or however you do it, I would take heed and caution as to how you price parts as you sell them. If you can buy them cheap, that's fantastic. Everybody can lower prices. Lowering prices is the easiest thing in the world to do, but try to raise one. And if you're buying parts at a really low cost and all of a sudden tomorrow someone says it's a 20% increase and there's no reason for it, you as a distributor have to justify that end user why their costs went up when nothing on the London Metal Exchange or nothing in the currency dictates that it should go up. So I really try to tell people, hey, it's great to buy cheap. Just be very cautious about how you price it to your customers because you don't want to be the one that's held in the bag.
Right. Now, as they keep adding more SKUs and the bigger companies get bigger, and down the road here, there has to be some type of movement as to different companies that are going to go out of business as other importers are getting larger and larger, and we've seen it as Heads and Threads went on the wayside. Down the road, there could be big price increases as competition becomes smaller and smaller.
There has to be big price increases. It's not it could be. It has to be. I mean, that's what I was talking about. There is a thing called replacement cost. Mm-hmm. And if you look at cost of steel today, and it used to be in the past, that people would price parts based off of a part. Now, a lot of people price parts on weight. If you look at the weight of a part today and go overseas and look at, BioSteel or CSC and look at their cost per pound of steel, and you do some backwards math and some reverse engineering and look at how parts are being sold today in the States from some people, you can see that there's something wrong there. It just doesn't add up. And what that really means is they've got a lot of inventory they bought maybe 6, 12, 18 months ago. So when that runs out, they'll have to replace it, and they'll replace it at its higher cost. That means to me, I guess in basic math, there has to be a dramatic increase. And if you do a dramatic increase like that and there's really nothing that indicates why it's gone up, there might be a lot of people scratching their heads going, gee, I wonder what happened. But that's the name of the game and the nature of the business we live in. And clearly we're seeing that, some distribution houses are going under. A lot of little guys might merge. Some of the big guys might go under or merge. Heads didn't do any favors to any of us when they went out of business in the fashion that they did. That scarred the vendors, and it made the vendors in Asia a hell of a lot more cautious about how they float parts across that pond. A lot of them now are kind of retaining that bill of lading or the deed entitled to the goods until payment. And, when you get stuck for that kind of money, they're not going to eat it. They're going to get it back one way or the other. And you and I are the ones that are paying back a Heads and Threads debt.
Right. And as we go forward here, do you think that as these bigger companies get even bigger, it's going to help or hurt your company?
I think for me, long term, it helps me. It's been a very, very difficult couple of years because of the way pricing has gone. But I think long term, it's a twofold issue. One is I don't think people want to have all their eggs in one basket. And if you start to minimize the amount of sources domestically for people to buy these big guys, so to speak, people will get nervous about putting all their eggs in one basket, or one would think. The other part of that is I've been seeing it for the last couple of years, and every year it gets stronger. More and more people are looking to go direct. They're carving out as much of that middleman as possible to keep their cost as low as possible. And the beauty part about dealing direct is what the cost of goods is. It's not a vague number where you have to guess and go, well, this guy put 15 or 27 margin on it. So I think as people start to get more educated on how to buy overseas, and people like me step in and make it a little easier for them to do, and there's others out there like me, that's going to make these customers in the States, I would think, go more and more direct, which I would hope would be more beneficial to me. What I'm afraid of, quite frankly, is I don't sell to end users. That's what you guys do, distributors do, and that's kind of how my business model has been set up. And I really don't want to mess with end users. But I'm concerned that if pricing continues to stay as aggressive as it has been, and something happens in the future, and I'm not a soothsayer, but if pricing were to jump dramatically, what does that do to the end users? Do they look at you and go, hey, John, I just can't afford to keep your margin in the middle of this. I'm going to go direct. And we go back to where it was in the 80s, where end users were buying direct themselves. That's what I'm more afraid of, because that would harm my business, and not only harm my business, but harm yours and all the other distributors as well.
Right.
I'm not quite sure that we're going to have that happen, but it's certainly there. And I think about it as I look at pricing from overseas. And I guess that's the only real difference between what I do and what you guys do and everybody else is the vendors overseas and really anywhere. They don't care. They'll take an order from an end user as much as they would take one from us as long as the cash is there. It's not a hobby. It's a business for them. So I hope that we don't get carved out because people have began to, just carve up this price so much that it makes it more attractive for end users to go direct.
Very interesting, and a lot of good things to think about as we go forward this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a good year. I don't think it's going to be terrible. I think we're going to have a little bit of fun. I'm sure there's going to be some news this year that's going to make people go, wow. I don't know what that's going to be, but we've had it in the last couple of years, so why not think that this year is going to be any different?
Sure.
And there'll be other countries that are playing in this. So, if anybody has any interest in more discussion about it, I'd be happy to talk to them. If you're interested in maybe taking a trip overseas just to get a better feel for it, I do that as well. I'm a half tour guide, half business guy, so I could, I take people around to all of Asia.
Very nice, very nice. And how'd they get a hold of you, Rob?
Well, you can get me at fidelisfasteners.com. I'm not going to throw the www in there because I think that's redundant anymore.
Even though you just did.
But I figured you'd catch that. And you can, that's probably the easiest way to reach me. My cell phone is always connected to my hip. It's 630-532-0458. It's with me wherever I go, and I sleep probably less than anybody in the world anymore. And I'm traveling probably more than anybody in the world anymore. So you can always get a hold of me, and John, you can attest to that.
Very informative. Very good, Rob. I do appreciate your time and your patience and dealing with us and helping us out with the program.
Always glad to help you guys out. Now, how do we make fun of Eric before we go?
That's pretty easy. You just
too easy.
All right, Rob. Thanks a lot, my friend.
You got it, guys. Have a great Monday, and we'll talk to you down the line.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, hopefully we can get above a grade 7 on this show. Thanks for listening to Fully Threaded Radio. We'll be right back, everybody.
Looking for package fasteners of all kinds? How about specials or unique parts that no one seems to carry? At Trinity Hardware Headquarters, we believe in parts done right, and our new catalogue is available online at trinityhardwarehq.com, featuring over 30,000 different types of fasteners available in package quantities, product kits, and assortments, including hundreds of hard-to-find parts as well as the most popular inch and metric sizes. Trinity Hardware Headquarters has locations throughout the Midwest and South and over 400,000 square feet of warehouse space with 18 million pounds of fasteners ready to fill your requirements. Our featured products include number 3 and number 7 head plow bolts, grade 5 and grade 8 carriage bolts, hook bolts, tap bolts, and nuts and washers of all kinds, plus much more. Visit our website at www.trinityhardwarehq.com or give Trinity Hardware Headquarters a call at 888-232-1010. Trinity Hardware Headquarters, for parts done right.
Hey, Fastener people. Let's meet in the middle in Kansas City, Missouri for the All-American Fastener Show, May 8th to the 9th, 2013. This is Heidi Voltrauer, and I'm so excited to have the show in Kansas City at the Intercontinental Hotel on the Plaza. And getting there is easy. Once you catch a direct flight into Kansas City or make the drive, you can park your car and enjoy the hotel and plaza with all of its amazing shops and restaurants right across from the hotel. We will have the golf tournament, booth setup, and of course our famous Fastener Bash on May 8th. And the show will be on the 9th, starting at 9 a.m. We've also added a lunch seminar the day of the show. For all your information about the All-American Fastener Show, look at our website at allamericanfastenershow.com. Hope to see all of you in May at the All-American Fastener Show in Kansas City.
Hi, this is Hugh Hewitt for the Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund, www.semperfifund.org. Over the past 7 years, twice a year, the wonderful people who operate the Semper Fi Fund and many amazing Marines who have been the beneficiaries of the charities that have supported the Semper Fi Fund, including many thousands of individual donors, have come into my radio studio to tell their amazing stories of serving their country, of being wounded, and how the Semper Fi Fund has helped them make that transition back to recovery. Unfortunately, Bethesda and Walter Reed are full again. More and more men and women are coming back from the war injured, sometimes awfully so. We need the Semper Fi Fund to be there for these Marines and those soldiers, sailors, and airmen who served alongside of them. Please consider a gift to the Semper Fi Fund. Very low overhead, extraordinary capacity to get money where it needs to get in a hurry, and great management, including some of the senior Marines who've ever served under the flag. When you're looking for something to do that will make an impact, please check out the Semper Fi Fund. That's www.semperfifund.org, www.semperfifund.org.
Once you're in this industry, you're not getting out. Good thing there's Fully Threaded Radio, talk radio for the fastener industry.
This is Rick Porter with Mid-Valley Distributors, the largest stocking distributor of fasteners in Central California. If we don't have it, weld it. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
And you're back with Fully Threaded Radio. John Butler and Andy Pels. Wrapping up a show. This is our first time filling in as guest hosts. Hopefully this won't be the last time we get invited back. What do you think, Andy?
There's a chance.
There is.
We're waiting to see what the union says about how much we're going to get paid for this, of course.
Yeah, union scale. I like it.
Yeah. But let's make it clear that the email address for any sort of feedback, especially negative feedback, is not our email addresses. We're not as brave as Mike McNulty. If he gives his opinions, he makes it clear that if you don't like it, you can tell him about it. Well, if you have complaints about us, go to ftr@fullythreaded.com and tell Eric and Brian about it.
I'm sure there'll only be good things to say about this episode and how much everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, of course.
Always be positive. Well, it was an interesting show, Andy, and filling in was a lot of fun today, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. Filling in today also was Jason Sandefur for Mike McNulty with the Global Fastener News Report, which was brought to you by Volt Industrial Plastics. We do want to thank everybody for listening to the show and thank all the sponsors. We've had a lot of really interesting people in the fastener industry over this past year. A lot of good people that sponsor the show, and we want to thank everybody. And I'm looking forward to some more Old Rusty Bolt at this year's Fastener show come later on in the year. But there's a lot of golf to be had during the summer meetings, and I'm looking forward to that. You a golfer, Andy?
No, I'm not. I some friends of mine took me golfing once, and they were very patient with me, but I did not feel good about making them wait at every hole for so long while I chased the ball here and there. I do like watching it, but I never got into it.
Yeah. Most people don't like watching it. Most people just like playing it. You're an odd bird, aren't you, Andy?
I prefer watching it to the embarrassment of trying to play it. Of course, I guess a lot of people who play every weekend might still say that, right?
Yeah, that is true. It is true. Even our great president just loves to go out and play golf. A lot easier than dealing with the press, and even though the press is quite generous to our fearless leader, but we won't get into that.
I know Eric seems to be somewhat obsessed with glow golf. I don't know if he just likes saying it because it sounds neat to say. Glow golf, glow golf.
I think it's because when he hits the ball, no one can see where it goes.
So
okay. Be embarrassed. That's probably what it is.
That maybe that's something I should take up then. That sounds right up my alley.
Well, we do want to thank today's sponsors for the show, Stelfast. For service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stelfast. Trinity Hardware Headquarters, Fastenal, Volt Industrial Plastics, Fastener Technology International, and a new sponsor for this episode, which is Buckeye Fasteners. Everybody knows Buckeye for all those weld products, that's for sure. And, of course, K&L Sales for letting me take part in this show. And, Andy, anybody you want to thank in particular?
I'd like to thank Salma Hayek for not calling the police, and that's all I can think of.
Well, that's a story, I think, for another episode there, Andy.
Yes, I'll talk about that later.
Maybe we could just extend the show and you could tell us a little bit more. I don't think we have time for that, huh?
No. That's we've got some legal issues to work out.
Yeah, and some fasteners to sell.
Yes, exactly. Let's focus on the fasteners.
Fastener Fever, focus on fasteners. And for Andy Pels, this is John Butler. Thank you, and happy trails to you.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fastener's Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.
I'd like to thank Salma Hayek for not calling the police,